How are you? It's Trish Bennett here again, for those who don't know me, and I write poetry and other stuff, but I'll probably do poetry for you today. And thanks again to Ruth for persuading me to have another go. I enjoyed the last crack and I'm glad people got a kick out of it. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy what I'm doing today. And I got the hair done the other day, I'll tell you, it was needed. Thank you so much, Kylie. You're a great woman to put up with me. This one is, the first one I'm going to kick off with, is a series of covidiums. They're a list of haikus put into a book to commemorate the lockdown that we're all going through at the moment. And it was the initiative of Colin Dardis and Geraldine Dardis O'Kane for coming up with this, and it's part of Poetry NI. So this is my first haiku that I've ever had published, and it's short and sweet, you'll be pleased to hear. And I think it's appropriate to these days. Your hair reminds me of Tiger King Joe's mullet on a bad hair day. Told you it was short. This one I'm going to do now is about Kilty, and it's dedicated to all my American cousins who are stuck out there and can't get home to visit this year. And we miss ye as much as ye miss coming over. So it's for them, and it's about my dad and the yarns he'd tell when they'd come home to trace their ancestors. And no more than my dad, not all the facts are in here either. I never let the facts get in the way of a good story. And this originally was published in the Leitrim Guardian, who gave me my first poetry award. And tell you what, it's all, you're partly to blame for this, how confidence I have now. So I hope you enjoy it. And I know some of you have heard it before, but here we go. Kilty Relics. In the 80s, the far-out relations breezed in our door to trace their roots and ooh and ah our home. 150 years old. A museum. My brother and I on display, 20th century Irish teens. Mam stuffed them with tea, tart and treacle bread. Go on, a little bit more. While Dad dished out hot ones and stories galore. Later he drove down dung-filled roads, made them stop to let fairies cross. They hopped out with flashes, white, innocent smiles, and pressed roses from hedges in their Ireland guides. In the graveyard by Loch Melvin's shore, Dad had no clue where the ancestors lay. A minor point, they'd come all this way. He showed them a grave by the limestone wall. Question after question came, until they asked, why the unmarked plot? His answer nailed the questions shut. When people left long ago, 'twas tradition to send money home for a decent wake and a good headstone. They called to a cottage on the return. A mound of stones in the field beside was all that remained of their ancestors' lives. My father spoke to the man at the door. They've come from the States. We can't disappoint. So the man became a far-out cousin, threw himself into the role. Come in to me home. Your great-grandmother's bed's in the lower room, where she knelt every night to say her prayers. She sat here, at the hearth. Sit down in her chair. He gave them a piece of the heartstone, a relic to share. The far-out relations breezed home with tears in their eyes and rose-tinted pages in their Ireland guides. I forgot to say that's also in the Bramley, an anthology of flash fiction Armada that came out this year. Oh, I'm going to punt it all today, folks. I performed that in Armagh, and I had a load of my Armagh cousins the first time I did this, and I was terrified, and they gave me so much support, and thank you. Hope yous are doing all right. Now let me see what I have next on the agenda here for you. Oh yeah, I'm going to the other side of the border now. We're across in Fermanagh. I'm doing poems about either side of the lake. When I moved here first, I was on the other side of the lake. I was over in Blaney, and I was out, and I was away from everything. It was a good few miles from village and that, but I loved it, and I still think of those days. And now I'm on the other side of the lake, looking across the mountain at my neighbours who are still over there, and how he is, the McLaughlins. I know I'll mention everyone again today, I can't help myself, but there you go. This one's called Sweet Spot, and really it's about the joy of living beside water. I don't know, there's something about it, it lifts me. And this was previously published in a couple of magazines, Corncrake most latest, and The Bee's Breakfast anthology edited by Rebecca Jane Bilkow. I think it's been in a few other things as well. And it's been in the Label Lit project by Marie McManus. So here we go, I'll stop talking and I'll start again. Sweet Spot, Lower Lough Erne viewed from Clara Road, Blaney. Each morning I grasp the curtains with tired hands and fling my arms wide. The rings rattle in retreat on their rail as I await the lift like a cradled child. Sun tackles showers on in-between days. Sprinkles of rainbow are cast upon isles. Boats speckle the loch like white chocolate chips, rippling the mirrored reflection of sky. My eyes soak it up as the day kicks in. I float away on a natural high. Each night I take a closing fix. Through the shadows, Irvinstown twinkles a smile. A handful of jewels draped on the end of one arm, while I perch content on the other side. Oh, there's something about Lough Erne. I love the lakes. And I moved then to the other side of the lake, where our home is now, and it's close to Castle Archdale, Lough Erne Yacht Club, and in Killidees and St Angelo's, where the Catalinas and the Sunderlands flew from during World War II. And I do often hear the planes when they come back for the shows, you know, the air shows in the Catalina, and I love the sound of the Sunderland. Well, I haven't heard the Sunderland, but I've heard the Catalina. I love the sound of it going over. It's like a big purring lion. It's just fabulous. I've always loved planes and wings. I suppose that's why we have an Egypt of a parrot, but there you go. This one really is about, it's in this new anthology, Here You Go Again, by Women Aloud Northern Ireland, and it's I have two poems about Fermanagh, and you've heard one of them. The Sweet Spot is one of them, and the other one's is Raucous of Wings, which is the one I'm going to read you now. And I hope you like it. It's really about what it would have been like to live here when the Catalinas were going over and what people would have felt about it. Raucous of Wings. When you live in the sticks, you'd think there'd be peace. Not a hope this week with the racket of winged things. House martins crowd telephone lines, swoop down in a chitter-chatter. A village of starlings lands in the cherry tree. Their raucous upsets the tits enough to flit their feeder and return to defend their purchase. The Catalinas returned to do laps of the loch, bringing back the sounds of the 40s. She takes the turn so low, her engines hrum thrum over our home. She looks like she'll belly slap Lunny's Hill, but no, she glides on to land at St Angelo's. When she vrooms over the room on the umpteenth turn, I imagine our lane, a rough track then, fit only for horse and cart and hardy folk. The noise of herself and her Sunderland friends, flying low to land on their Atlantic return. As they roar over stone-walled homes, women grab the beads and bless themselves when their sacred hearts are rattled. I don't know, there's something about the sound of them. I know it wasn't very romantic living through a war. We're living through a different time now, but hopefully we'll all get through it. This last one was published lately in online, or what do you call it? On the wireless, if we want to go into the 40s, on the radio, and it's about BBC Radio Ulster producer contacted me and asked me to write a poem for lockdown because he knew I was writing some funny stuff at the time, and I was told no bad language, so I tried to keep clean, but all that came out was a load of innuendo. So I apologise to anyone who's sensitive. Maybe they shouldn't listen to this part. Just skip the next minute or two and go on to the next person on the show. And it's really about what would be like going shopping in Enniskillen, because I was looking at a lot of stuff about people on Pinterest making their own face masks, and I just thought how funny it would be if I went into Enniskillen and they had all these homemade face masks made out of their underwear, and what it'd be like. So I don't know where this mind goes in odd time, but there you go. Carry on, COVID. Our plumber inquired after my pipes in B&M, and him in disguise in a chopped, reinforced heel sock. I got a wild shock when I saw Mrs. Jones in Kells, her face strapped into the double D cup of a well-shook Playtex. I near wet myself at Denise in O'Doherty's, covered in spotty red nicks, as she said she couldn't resist his sausages. Well, I dropped all after yon book in Lidl. Leopard print budgie smugglers barely covered his bits, as he looked into my trolley and said, "It's hard to beat a good feed of meat and 2 veg." Thanks, folks. Hope we get through this soon and everyone's safe. All the best.